everybody. Welcome back to You Are the Operant Power. Hi, Jane. How are you?
Good. How are you, Gail?
Good. Today, we're going to talk about there is only one and relate it to the law of one. This scenario took me a while to kind of get even a grasp on because it just seems so confusing with all the mind. Well, what do you mean? There's subconscious mind, there's conscious mind, there's imagination, there's divine, or like the brain and the heart. And it's like, oh, it's just too complicated. And so even if you don't fully grasp it, like just keep persisting because eventually you have that aha moment. And you know how wonderful those are.
Oh, yes.
So just something to consider. Who says I am?
I do.
Well, yeah, like dogs, animals don't say it. Humans say it.
Okay.
So if we're all different, if you want to kind of go that route that we're all different, then how are we all identifying as I am before we add a story to that?
Right.
Sense?
Yes.
I am, you're describing, when I say I am, I'm describing myself. And then I am wearing glasses. That's my story. I'm wearing glasses.
Right. Yes.
When you say I am sitting on the beach, the sitting on the beach is your story.
Yes.
But you still are. So I am that's being. You are being with glasses or on the beach, that sort of thing. So that
okay.
I'm kind of going through what my thought process was to try and understand this. And how is it that every human says, I am? And of course, that's what in the Bible, that's what God's name is defined as, I am, right? Okay, so you know what? The whole Bible thing, just to clarify, it's not a historical journey of all of these people that are identified. I think there probably is some historical fact to it, but the majority of it, and it says right in there, it's allegorical. And it's our journey, but from an allegory perspective, not a historical perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So the states of mind are identified as characters in the Bible. So Rita Craigwell, she does a fantastic job of decoding the Bible. If anybody's interested, check her out she's on YouTube, also on Patreon, because she does a fantastic job in helping you to understand that, because it's very easy to fall into what we've learned when we were young going to church and where the majority of people come from, and with the whole sin and what words mean. And there was David Allen when I first started on this road, David Allen, he used to say, you need to know what the definition of the words are.
Right.
Well, I can go to, the dictionary, and this word is a word we use now, and this is what it means. But it's not, the words' meanings are manipulated and changed over time. And so it lessens the value of them, or the power of them. So when you understand the original definition and the original intent, then you have a whole different scenario that you're looking at. But anyways, back to the one aspect of things. So we all have an individual human consciousness. So, I have my consciousness that's based on the experiences of my lifetime. You have your own, everybody else has their own. And within that consciousness, it's divided into conscious mind and subconscious mind. And the conscious mind is that mind that, you know, you see what you have sensory data hitting it. And so that's, you're consciously seeing a tree. So that's the sensory data. The tree is a sensory data. And so the subconscious mind is actually, this is something that, I listened for a number of years to definitions of what subconscious mind is, how it works, and all that sort of thing. And it's just like, oh, that just doesn't make sense to me. Like it doesn't fit. And then Rita, again, who's done a great, she did a video, I'm not sure which one it is, but talking about the subconscious mind. And it just hit me when I heard it. It's like a purse. So your conscious mind and then a purse. And what's held in the subconscious mind is your reaction to things. So especially if you have a first time experience, your first awareness of something, your reaction is going to go right into that purse. So if it's a good reaction, just a positive, happy reaction, it's going in the purse. Likewise, if it's like a really negative reaction, it's going into that purse. And the more experiences that have the same reaction is the beginning of creating, a belief in that area, and it gets, becomes more and more. What happens when you're imagining and creating your reality? You're deciding what is your desire. You feel what your desire is. Your desire is provided by another aspect of yourself, which is your heart brain. So we have two brains. We have the brain up here that has the conscious and subconscious mind, and where our human imagination rests. And then we have one in our heart, which is the one that powers everything. It's the first thing created when a human's created. And the heart is the first thing.
Yeah.
Up the spinal cord and then the brain. So that's your power central. Your subconscious mind is responsible also for your bodily functions, to keep your organs going. And that's from your heart to your subconscious mind, it goes. And so you wake up, your liver works, your appendix works, whatever bodily function. So how creating works is you decide what it is you want. And then of course, you go to the end, because you can't have something that you don't already know to have. You can want something, but as long as you stay in that want, then you're always going to be wanting it, right? It's kind of like tomorrow never comes, because in actual fact, when tomorrow comes, it's today. So it's the same kind of thing. Like I want, but until you accept having it, it can never come. It always continues to be a want. That makes sense. Does that make sense?
So, yeah. So how does the purse concept fit into the law of one?
That's come. Well,
okay. So I'm getting, okay.
The
so
first
I'm getting
awareness, the
Again-
first awareness would come from the heart. So from the heart brain,
yes.
goes up.
So like a feeling?
This organ needs to be fun. This organ needs to work. This organ needs to work. This is everything that's human. That automatically breathing, your heart working. That's the first awareness that's put into the purse. So that's kind of like
the basic. Like the basic human
yeah, I mean,
functioning.
it's not basic, but I get what you mean.
No.
Yeah. So that's
the stuff you don't control
always
with
there.
your thinking. So you don't
What's that?
control that with, not the stuff that you are not like, you're not
Just happens
thinking about
automatically.
your stomach working or your hands moving and sort of the behind the scenes. The purse is behind the scenes.
Well, your body growing, your heart working, your brain working, when you're in good health, like you sort of the
Yes.
specimen of a human. All of that happens automatically. I don't have to think, okay, heart, you need to work. Okay, lungs, you need to make sure I'm breathing. Like you don't have to think, that just
Right.
automatically.
Right.
Now, the interesting thing, if you think about it though, is people do have heart issues, lung issues, appendix issues, issues with all of these organs that are just naturally working, meant to work. And that's all related to how our perspective on life and our reactions to things and how we feel about things. So when those are out of kilter, then they're not working properly. But it's not because they're defective in the sense that they'll never work properly. It's the power comes from the heart. So that power is interfered with when we hold on to, say, anger or hurt or blame or that sort of thing. Then it starts interfering with our own health. And that's kind of like a filter that goes over or a layer over the heart, over our heart brain, so that power can't get through anymore until we sort of release ourselves from whatever it is that we're holding on to.
So could you say that your law of one is the law of your heart?
No. Well,
No.
It is in a sense, but the law of one is that you and I and everybody else are all connected through our hearts. There's a string that goes from your heart to my heart to their heart to that heart to that heart to that heart.
Yes.
But we're all connected. And so the result is when you hurt someone else or have, hurtful thoughts about someone else or want to hurt somebody else, you're the one that experiences that.
Right. Yes.
So that's basically what the law of one is that, we're all connected.
So
go ahead.
Coming from a heart space in response to things that come to your reality in your day-to-day life. So
if you created previously.
Right. So someone cuts you off when you're driving and you want to react with a similar energy or a similar response, way to deal with it. If you're using the law of one, you would react through your heart space. So you would.
Well, no, I mean, they're all all of the laws that we're going to talk about, they're all interconnected. The main thing, as I understand it, for the law of one, is that we're all connected.
So when I feel
not about love,
someone,
it's not about love only, because love is kind of throughout all of them. Love is God is love. So the heart in your brain in your heart is love. So that's a part of all of the laws that we're going to be talking about. The law of one specifically is that we're all interconnected, and that when you harm others, you're harming yourself. When you imagine good for others, you're imagining good for yourself.
Right.
Everything that you see out there is a perception of yours.
And is that in the moment of choice? Like, could you say you choose, like you choose your response to what's happening?
Well, that's not, again, that's just related to all of the laws. That's just kind of like a foundation thing. You want to change your reality, you change your perception. You change your perception, you change your thinking, you change your reactions.
Right.
So yeah, so in your example of the car, somebody cut you off, take ownership of that at some time. There must have been, whatever your reaction is. You don't always like, it's not like, oh, I must have imagined someone cutting me off before. You may have, you may not have. It could be something that you saw somebody else cut somebody off sometime and had some kind of a feeling about it. Oh, what a jerk. That would be enough that you would have that experience. And we'll get into this again more when we talk about judgment, because whatever you judge, you're going to experience both sides of the judgment.
Right. Yes.
So yeah, the whole oneness thing is we're connected with everyone and everything. Even the, looking out into nature. It's all coming from you. You're projecting out what you see. So if you don't see the world that you want to live in, then that change comes from within. It doesn't come from protesting, doesn't come from expecting the government to do this, that, or the other thing, or all of the other rest of the population needs to change. They're all sleeping. Like, gee,
right.
They're all sleeping, they're sheep, they're this, they're that, like making all these judgments. It's not, your world is yours and it's reflected back to you. So you're seeing what's going on within you when you look outside consciously.
It's kind of hard. I feel like that is kind of hard, was kind of really hard for me to perceive at first, because I always thought that was out there and this is over here, like separated those two things from each other. And as I understand how to, it's almost like a reframe, that once I understand that, I was experiencing that the last few days. I noticed things were really, really good. And then I would feel something like a narrative would pop up, and I would start kind of going in that direction with it. And then I was like, no, like that's focusing on what I don't want. And there was a whole bunch of stuff that I don't want. Apparently I have a lot of things that I don't want. And I've been used to using that as my navigator in life. And like you said, it just doesn't bring about the kind of change that once I started doing some of the stuff we've talked about, I was like, no, no matter what, I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on all is well. And what do I want? And is there something coming from what I don't want into what I want? And there was a few things. There was a few ways to frame it that I could go, oh, well, then I just want this. And I've had this conversation with, I've been told by friends or family, ask for what you want, because I've gotten into discussions that were just going nowhere. And at the end of them, it was kind of like, well, just ask for what you want. And it seems like an obvious thing to ask for what you want. So
it actually goes beyond that, though. Accept what you want. Because to ask is right? Right. Yes. Once it's identified, accept it.
And imagine it. So I started to imagine again, instead of what I didn't want, what I wanted. And my whole way of thinking, I could feel it energetically, like just kind of shift into, oh, okay, back to what I want, like stop. It just seems like a real default, I guess, just a place that I was used to using before. And actually it's not a good thing. It doesn't help. It just breeds more of what I don't want. I keep seeing that now. And I'm like, and I actually was doing conversations in my mind and of what I didn't want. And that's when I noticed it. I was like, oh yeah, like that. I can start to see how that's really paying attention to the thing I don't want.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can be tricky sometimes.
Yeah.
Things I just want to,
Simple, but tricky.
yeah. 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 And
But I feel like saying all is well is my sort of touchstone point to remind myself to come back into what I want. Because if all is well, then I can, it's more of a, it feels like more of a platform place in my mind to go to into what I want.
yeah.
It sort of helps get you to that
Yeah.
place because you're no longer, because when you're focused on what you don't want, there's a bunch of maybe narratives attached to that, which turn into more narratives and more, and then it gets into analyzing. I caught myself again analyzing it, and then I was like, oh, this is doing that same thing again.
Yeah. What you may want to do too when you're going to that all is well point is recognize consciously, well, I don't think that way anymore.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't think that way anything anymore. All is well.
Yes.
What happens is, and we'll just go into this quickly, when you're creating, okay, your subconscious mind, okay, is going, okay, I want a cup of coffee. So what the human imagination will then do is, okay, coffee. Yep. The heart brain always says yes. The one that powers what you want to manifest always says yes. So it's just up now to the human imagination to find the pathway to you getting your coffee. And what it does, and this is the subconscious mind, I don't want to say power, but job, role, is the human imagination will then dip into this purse, the subconscious mind, which is like a purse. Anything in there that relates to coffee in a good, like a negative or a positive way, like, she cool with coffee? Can we just, have somebody knock at her door and give her a coffee? Or does she have any stories attached around having coffee or receiving a free coffee or whatever, right?
And so that would be your purse.
The subconscious mind is the purse. Yes. So
that would
it's
be the things you put into about coffee into the purse.
Whatever your stories are about coffee and everything else in your awareness goes into the purse. So and this is probably a really simplified version of it, but just for simplicity's sake. So the human imagination's dipping into the purse. Anything in here for coffee? Look under, see, stories, anything like that. Pulls out, say you have an issue with somebody spilt coffee on you once and, it really upset you and you lashed out at them or whatever. So then what's going to happen for your manifestation is that story may come back to life. And so you imagined having a wonderful, nice coffee, enjoying your coffee, but you had that in your purse. And so that may affect this or another manifestation. And so you're going to, you may end up tripping and spilling your coffee or something like that. And so your reaction is going to be, oh, you don't need to find out what created that story or why you ended up tripping. It's like, oh, well, isn't that funny? Like, your reaction is going to affect whether or not that story goes back into the purse again.
Right.
Into the purse, then it's going to happen again. And it's going to happen again because it keeps dropping into the purse, right? Then you've got another one and another one and another one. So if you just are like, oh, you see that? I just tripped. That's so funny. Just very nonchalant, nothing, no resistance to it, just like whatever it is, what it is. Then that story comes out of the purse.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you replace in there whatever your reaction was. So your reaction, again, very neutral, whatever, love my coffee, that goes back into the purse. And so what happens is I think in most cases, myself included, we've been pulling stuff out, or the human imagination's been pulling stuff out of the person, throwing it at us, right? And we're like, well, like, that's not what I imagined. I didn't imagine that. No, I'm this or I'm that, or my life is this or my life is that. And we have these little things that, little speed bumps. But we
Yeah.
act again to them like, well, come on, it's not what I imagined. And you get all upset and everything. And we're just creating more little stories and beliefs and thoughts that are going into the purse. And so we need to, that's why the way you react is so important, because you're either going to create more of what you don't want, or you're going to create what you do want.
And that definitely plays out interpersonally, because even our conversations, I find, have sort of more of a filter of like being aware of narratives. And I find when I talk to people that I'm becoming more aware of how I'm putting my narrative into that. And oftentimes just saying nothing, we've talked about this before. I'm a talker. I am a talker. I love to talk. I love to share. I love to think. I love all of it. In loving to listen and loving to not say anything, I'm adding those things into my awareness of allowing someone else, for instance, you tell me I'm upset about something, and immediately I go into all my narratives, all my fixing narratives, all my, oh, here's how you can solve it. And instead of doing that now, I don't feel the need to do that. So I can sit and pay attention to the things that I think is in those laws. Like if we're talking in laws, like if we're following along together and you say to me, well, I think, this is a horrible thing. I don't have to say to you, oh, that's not a horrible thing. It's a good thing, or counter it or anything. I can just let you say it, revise it in my mind to all is well. I don't need to feed into it, is what I'm getting at. And I feel that what I don't want narrative and analyzing feeds into other people. And
well,
it's
they're a projection of your thoughts.
Yes.
And so while you're saying again, all is well, and not feeding them, I used to think that way. I don't think that way anymore. And you may you may not be aware that you thought that way, but you're projecting that onto them, and they're responding. They have no choice but to respond. So they're telling you about you. And if it's not how you want to be, and you don't want people upset, that's just that. Who wants anybody to be upset? Even if you're not the cause of it, like nobody wants to see people upset.
Well, it's interesting too, because when someone's upset, oftentimes they're looking for a confirmation. So if you don't give okay,
they're looking for sympathy,
right? And oftentimes, if it's me projected, then it's an aspect of myself that I also haven't, that I've put out there. So it's a lot easier for me now to allow that statement to be said, and then say nothing sometimes. Like that was even another place where I'm learning can be helpful in not perpetuating things you don't want to perpetuate. So saying nothing, and interestingly enough, when you say nothing, it makes the person repeat what they've just said to you oftentimes. So in other words, if you say something to me and I say nothing, if you really want to,
you hear me?
You're going to do something like that. But oftentimes that's not what happens. People just skip past it. They don't keep They don't keep repeating it. They just skip past it. You give it no life and it's gone.
Right.
Even
But going back to the whole subconscious purse and that sort of thing, you have to replace, if you're taking out, okay, you're upset. So that was something that was taken out. I don't know what it was, some kind of a story. So it played out, they projected it back to you. So if you don't want that story to go back in, then you need to replace it with something. Because
right.
still always awareness, right? So you're still, if you don't replace, I see her so happy and so loving all the time. Then what's going to go in is she's miserable and unhappy all the time. That's going to go back
Right.
because there's still an awareness of them, and that it's going to be replaced because
So
of
could you,
this.
okay, so could you say something like, well, like, I don't think that way anymore. Can you say they don't think that way anymore in your mind? Like they'll say something.
Yeah,
And
but
like,
okay, and then how do they feel? So you have to, once you identify, no, that's not that.
Okay.
What is it? They're so loving and at peace. Whatever the case may be. You always want to replace it with how you want it to be. And then
Okay.
it goes back into the purse. So the next time you're imagining something, there's another, loving, peaceful type of thing that can be pulled out, as opposed to she's always upset and miserable. Because you don't want to that path.
And it's pretty crazy how many, I feel like, narratives of what I don't want. Like I said, I can't stress that enough.
It's like, for lack of a better example, it's like we're all have our own train tracks. And the train tracks are, in our case, 19 years old, a number of years old, right, from our experiences. And so, when you're not aware, don't know to be aware of your thoughts, then you think you're thinking, but you're not really. You're just, that the thoughts that come are just automatic, because that's a program that we're all running, all on our tracks. And so what makes it so challenging when we start thinking differently, like, oh, well, no, I don't think that way. What we're doing then is we're starting to dig new tracks. And so it can be a challenge sometimes, because it takes time to, clear the gland for where you're going to put the tracks. To have that, I don't know, what do you call it when the thing that stops the tracks and the alternate, so you can go on the alternate one, because right now we are going on the one. And so the more you're in control of what you're thinking, then you start to automatically go to that new track. And the old track then just, grass grows over it, dirt grows over it, and it doesn't leave, but it's like you're less, you're not on it anymore. You're on this one. You can jump back here, anytime you start thinking the old way, it's there for you still, but you're creating this one now to follow that one. And then it becomes automatic. You're not having to think, I don't think that way anymore on a daily basis, right? Because you don't have, that's not showing up in your face.
Right. So we talked a little bit before we were earlier this week, and we talked about resistance is focusing on what you don't want. So could you almost say when you feel resistance, that might be an indicator that you're focusing on what you don't want? Like, say someone says something and you feel that, like, oh, I don't agree with that, or like it.
Well, you don't have to agree with like if I said to you, like, oh, Jane, I really like your yellow hair. Well, my hair's not yellow. So like, I don't like it's a ridiculous example, but you don't have to agree with me on that. You don't have to disagree with me on that. But you may be offended that, like, oh, my roots brassy or something, like, and that's not the case, but you know what I mean? If you said somebody with blonde hair, like, oh, I really like your yellow hair. Well, wait a minute, it's not yellow. And do I need to go to the hair? They start all of these stories then and imaginings. So their response is going to tell them whether or not they're bothered by it. Are they going to attach stories like, oh, I got to go look in the mirrors. Do I need to do anything about this? Or they can just see it as you're so silly. And like nothing, no sort of emotional ping to it at all. Just like, oh my God, I never know what you're going to say. You're so silly. And that's not going to be, the words don't matter in those cases because the feeling's there. It's just so funny. There's no resistance to tell me.
Okay, so
as you want. I don't care.
So feelings are intimately related to this whole process then.
It is part of the foundation because the God in your heart or your heart brain, it doesn't have the same senses that your conscious mind has. It can only go by feeling. So you can say, the sky, wow, the sky is purple. But if that feeling inside you is, everybody knows the sky is blue, then the sky is going to be blue. If you can get deep enough, that feeling intense enough that the sky is purple, you will perceive the sky as purple. But that's pretty tough. And I think if we can be honest with ourselves, does that really feel like you own it? Or you really feel like you have it? Really?
Right.
Or, is there's these, and even just asking that, right? Well, yeah, of course. The fact that it's not in front of me doesn't mean anything. No. It's those kinds of responses in your head even that are going to tell you where you are in that feeling of whether or not you have it. Like I've had experiences, like I think I shared on one of the other videos with going back to school, right? I was told no to a student loan. And I'm like, well, I don't care. I'm going to school. Like that feeling was there. I knew I was going to school. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I just knew I was going to school. And so that's exactly what happened. 2 weeks later, they respond to me, oh, we relooked at it. Here's the loan. Enjoy school, sort of thing. If my reaction was different, that maybe I jumped through oh my God, I need this loan. How can I go to school if I don't have this loan? Then I was not in that feeling of, I'm going to school. I went to school already. I'm already done school. Like,
yes,
will tell us a lot about
what
the feeling is.
Okay, so when I listen to that, and I imagine you sitting there thinking about school, how do you stir the feeling of the wish fulfilled? I guess that's just your imagining. You have to keep imagining the wish fulfilled. Like you have to keep imagining how that feels.
Well,
like for instance, like I could feel.
You feel it. It's a matter of really, if you have a problem in your life making decisions, then that's going to be an issue, an area that you're going to have to do a lot of work on because I made the decision I'm going to school. I didn't know how. I just knew in January. So I was too late for September. So I was going in January. I didn't know how. And so everything, they didn't have to do anything. This was in July. There was nothing like I didn't have to go out and buy books or anything like that. But if it had been later, I would have been, okay, I'm looking at the books that I need. They told me I need this book. I need that book. I would have, whatever I would have been doing to go to school in January is what I would have been doing. In July wasn't an issue because I still had whatever 4 months, 5 months before I was going.
So did you
But I
feel that?
I just
Did you?
I'm going to school. I'm already done. I've already graduated. So I don't care what you say. And that was my response exactly. And I was actually with that, and I think this maybe helped a little bit with the intensity. I was like, I'm not jumping through your hoops. I don't have to jump through your hoops because they wanted me to do I could appeal their decision of turning me down. I'm like, no. So that I wasn't offended, but I was kind of, no. That I think related to my concept of self. Like, I don't jump through people's hoops. And that provided that's just part of who I am. And so that foundation is already there. And that feeds that feeling, right? I already decided I'm going to school. I'm done school.
Yeah, so there was no room for what you didn't
Right.
want.
Right.
In there.
My kid said to me, like, well, what are you going to do? You don't have any money, blah, blah. I don't care.
Right. Yes, I understand
I'm
that
going
feeling.
to school.
Yeah.
I've already gone to school. I've already graduated with honors. I don't know what else I can tell you. Nothing.
So it's kind of like you could take the feeling from another experience, like say, one time you got something really good, happened to you, and the feeling of that, you could attach that feeling to your end of that particular finishing school. Like you just felt like, oh, it's so great to be finished school, and before you've even started, so that as the things come up that could become roadblocks, you've already sort of put in your purse.
I already made my decision.
Right. So you put that in your purse.
Matter. See, I had made the decision before I even got turned down for the loan.
Okay. So, but you put it in your purse. And when you thought about school, what would come out of your purse was
she doesn't have money. She doesn't have credit. Let's throw this at her.
Yeah.
It's when it's pulled out of your purse. I mean, it's just like, are you sure you believe this?
Yes.
That's all it is. It's like, are you sure?
Yes.
Or, a bump happens and your reaction is your notification to yourself of whether or not you do believe it.
Yes.
Because I could have said, oh my God, what am I going to do? I have no money. Oh, now I have to jump through their hoops. Oh my God, this is not fair. I don't like this. I don't want to do this. And I could have gone on and on and on. And what that would have been telling, my feeling on if that was my reaction, then my feeling was, well, I don't think you finished school then. Like, I don't think
so
because, you're acting like you've not even been to school.
Right.
Reaction is telling us you've not been to school. So so my reaction then changed. It pulled out. No, you're turned down. I don't care. I've already graduated school. That's what goes back in the purse. 2 weeks later, I'm
right. So that seems to be, to me, one of the areas that, again, focusing on what you don't want can pull you out of the side of finishing.
Yeah. And the idea, focus on what you want as you already have it.
Because right.
It's never going to come. A want is like the future. It never comes. The future is out there.
Yes.
It never, today is today or now is now. I never identify this moment as the future.
Right.
So I don't know. Has that been helpful at all? Kind of confusing, I know, but
well, okay.
Fascinating at the same time.
I think just recapping, it really judging others, analyzing, looking at what you don't want is never going to get you what you want. So if you focus on what you want with an assertion that there's nothing that
That you already have it.
that you already have it, that is where you come with your response to anything that shows
Your
up.
reaction, yeah. And from the, just in recapping to close it up here, we're all connected via an energy string. So whatever you're wishing or imagining on another, which is just simply a thought, you're going to experience that. So good or bad, you're going to experience it. What we are aware of with our conscious mind, our physical senses, is dropped into the purse, which is your subconscious mind. You imagine something. Imagination always has a yes from the divine, or the brain in your heart always says yes, and that's the one that powers all of the creation. And then imagination chooses from, if there's, goes fishing in your purse, your subconscious purse, to see if there's anything that could challenge what you say you believe, what you feel you believe, and then devises a plan to have it all play out however it plays out. When we focus too much on the things that we don't want, then we start to create layers and boundaries around the brain in our hearts. And so we have to clear that stuff to have our body healthy, working well, mind working well, imaginations working, in a way that we want them to show up.
And you've been saying to me, know what you want, figure out what you want, not what you don't want.
Yeah.
Which is a change in itself, and feel it real. Feel what it would feel like if it was real. And
yeah. Like if you're in a relationship, I just used this one today and I just thought it was brilliant. I'm going to use it for myself too. Upset that your relationship broke up. Okay, you have the understanding that they're just a projection of you. So they're showing you something about yourself. So be thankful for that. When you have those thoughts, because there's always, the imagination's pulling stuff out of your purse. So when you have those things come up that you don't want, replace them with, I love, blah, blah. If it's a person, if it's a thing, whatever it is, just focus on that feeling, because say it's a person. You want to rekindle something with their person, which you're not really rekindling. You're going from a relationship 1.0 to a relationship 2.0. So it's not the same person. You're not the same person. It's not the same relationship, even though everything seems the same. So, focus on that love that you felt for them when you first met in the honeymoon phase, when you had no stories attached. Those stories that get in the way, right? Or, imagination's pulling out all of these stories that you've had to date from your physical senses. I love them. I love that. I love that time when we, like you were saying, go back to another experience and use that. It's like, oh, I just love the way we feel about, when we did that. Because you're creating your future. You're creating another experience like that once you sort of can handle the ones that are being pulled out of the purse and change. No, I don't think like that anymore. All I feel for them is love. That's all I feel for them is love. Like and that takes care of all of the stories. So every time the stories come up, I don't feel like that anymore. So that removes it from the purse. I just feel love for them. That's what goes back into the purse.
Yes. And that I like what you said. I do imaginings for all the people in my life, and I see them uplifted. Like I see them with love, sending love back to me, like in my mind's eye, laughing and everything's great. and it lifts me up, it lifts them up, and it's not playing into what I don't want.
Yeah. I would just wonder, and I mean, I don't think we this is probably going on pretty long, but
Okay.
why do you need to have them send it back to you? That would be my only question, because that would just be a natural thing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're like looking at me, I'm looking at them, and we're both looking at each other with love.
Okay. Because there could be some, I'm not saying that there is, but that
No.
sort of thing, okay, that's a flag for me. Like, okay, well, what are you trying to control something? What is it? Because that's just a natural thing, right? That, of course, you're seeing them with love. They have no choice but to see you with love, because love responds to love.
But I mean, like imagining in your mind their face
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah. 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 Anyways.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're probably over time. Not that we really have this time limit. Anyways, we probably should have a time limit. But if you have any questions, thanks for joining us. Drop them down in the comments section. Join us. We have more videos coming. And subscribe, share, hit the bell.
Have fun on the beach
Yeah.
in the warm weather. If you're near
The
a
thing
beach.
with these laws too is, you know what, we're living by them daily.
Yes.
So we might as well learn about them and understand them. The more you understand, for me anyways, the more I understand them, the easier it is for me to shift things. Because
Yes.
just quickly before we end up, this whole idea of taking responsibility. Okay, no, I'm not going to take any responsibility. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. And then my question is be, okay, well, what change do you expect to see? Well, they're going to do this and they're going to do that and they're going to do this and it's their fault. It's their... Do you see that change happening? I mean, we're right now, that's what society, a portion of society is trying to push, this whole victim mentality, right? And where's it going? It's not going to go anywhere because there's just no power in it. I take responsibility for everything, then I have full power.
Yeah.
Because you are a projection of me. And if I have it in my consciousness that, you know, you're feeling this way and it's not a way that I would want to feel, then you're lifted. You're love now. You're not anger, upset. You just feel love. And then that's lifting me up. So that's, and they're changing. They're not, I'm not changing them. They're responding to me differently because I'm not forcing change on anybody. I'm not saying you have to do this, you can't say that, you can't say this, you have to do this, you have to do that, blah, 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 all that stuff. Because there's no power in that.
Yes.
Anyways.
Okay.
Everybody. It's been a slice and we'll see you soon. Ciao.
See you later.
Ciao.